Oh yes, something else, very important. Unlike the other religions, Christianity promised a happy afterlife for its followers, and the only thing you had to do was believe. As for initiation, there was no initiation ceremony other than maybe possibly baptism. But other than that, there was no rough, tough initiation. But they promised a happy afterlife for the followers, something that paganism did not promise. Ever since the days of the Sumerians promised a dismal afterlife for nearly everyone. The Greeks and Romans, their paganism had not much else to offer. Christianity promised a happy afterlife for anyone who believed. So this aided in the spread of Christianity and made it popular among the people. The persecution, if anything, the persecution might have benefited Christianity by showing that Christians were brave people. Also, a lot of persecuted people spread out and fanned out to areas where they were not persecuted, and as they did, they spread their religion to the people, to new neighbors with whom they came in contact. So if anything, the persecution might have helped the religion spread even more. All right, I'll pause here. Does anybody now have any comments, questions? Yeah.
Wasn't Nero crazy?
Huh?
Wasn't Nero crazy?
Nero?
Yeah.
You can say he was crazy. Well, the question I believe is, was Nero crazy? It might be better to say he was incompetent. Just simply, he might have gone crazy after a while, but incompetent is a better word. He was simply not suited to be emperor. Hey, several years ago, it seemed like most of my students have heard this, but have any of you ever heard of a psychological principle called the Peter Principle? The idea is, don't ever go higher on the bureaucracy than your abilities allow you to go. If you're in the Army, and they put 1 star on your collar, and you can manage that well, and then they put 2 stars, and you fall on your face, level of incompetence. In other words, some people can only handle this much responsibility. Most of us have a limit to what we can handle, and then put us higher than our abilities allow, and we're going to fall apart. Nero was never suited to be emperor. As an artist, he might have been a great one. But all of a sudden they made him an emperor, and he simply wasn't suited for the job, and maybe the job drove him partially insane, but actually no. He was no more insane, I believe, than Adolf Hitler. And Adolf Hitler, he was sane. He was in control of himself, and he was making his own judgments. He was morally bankrupt, not insane. Yes?
This is a little bit off subject. You had told us about the lectures. There's one coming up for the American Afterlife, and they're going to be talking about the past afterlife.
Everybody
Will
listening?
we be able to get that credit?
Yes, I'll give you credit for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the lecture series about the, I saw it advertised. I saw it advertised this morning. Yeah, I'll count it.
Okay.
Just give me some proof that you were there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll count it. All right. That's on this. So, anybody else? Now, eventually the church organized itself. They set up bishops. And one of the bishops, the Bishop of Rome, eventually was to take on the title of Pope. And that's interesting because the present Pope, as soon as he took office about 18 months ago, said, I'm never going to forget that I'm also Bishop of Rome. It's like a lot of the popes have forgotten that they were originally at one time just bishops of Rome. But the bishops became a separate, in other words, instead of being part of the people, they set themselves up apart from the people and became what's known as the clergy, as opposed to the laity. The laity being the ordinary people, and the clergy, a group of people separate. The bishops became a salary position where they were paid by the parishioners. And as time went on, the church began to take on more and more functions of the state. Most notably, the church began to perform marriage ceremonies, and this extends even to the 21st century. Now, this is not as true as it was maybe 50 or so years ago. A lot of persons, even in the United States, do not consider themselves married until they've gone through a church ceremony. and the preacher pronounces a man and wife, or the priest, whatever. This began at the time of the church, when the church began to perform marriages, and especially now this became true as the power of the state dwindled. Now, while I'm on the subject of the papacy, Pope, I had a student ask me several years ago, how did the Pope become so powerful? Well, you don't have any office like the Pope anywhere else in the world. And the reason you have it in the Western world is you one time had a political unity. You know, to have a Pope, you have to have a political unity. Then the political unity fragments, disintegrates, breaks apart, but the Pope is left strong. When political unity began to fall apart, the Pope was the one strong man of the hour. And he began to negotiate treaties, deal with the enemy. Pope Leo really increased the prestige of the papacy when he went out and talked to Attila the Hun. Other popes did a lot to increase their power and prestige. And a lot of people began to look, when they went to Rome, to look to Rome for aid, they'd find, hey, there's no Caesar here anymore, but tell you, over there next to where Caesar used to live, there's the Pope, and maybe he can help you. So in the place of Caesar, there became the popes. And Rome became the capital city of the Catholic Church, and has remained so to this day. Several things, again, more than that, several other things elevated the power of the papacy. You had popes who asserted themselves that they should be head of all the church. It helped also when Constantine moved to Constantinople and left the Pope there in Rome. So several things began to work in the favor of the church. Now the church had its problems, and a lot of the problems were divisions and heresies. We'll talk a little bit more about this later. Your book doesn't mention it now, but there were several opinions. I mean, it's been said, you get 10 people together, they'll have 12 different opinions on a certain matter. The church began to have all kinds of discussions, arguments, debates about the nature of Christ, the nature of the Trinity. And eventually the church defined these doctrines, defined who was in charge. The bishops helped that by helping to spread what was the true doctrine and what was not. And eventually the church became what we know of the church today. I'm not going to put his name on a board, but Theodosius the Great made Christianity the official religion of the empire. He began his reign in 378, the same year as the Great Battle of Adrianople. And after 400 years, less than 400 years, Christianity had gone from a non-existence to the official religion of the Western Roman Empire. A lot of persons, now again, there are persons who will slam Christianity for what it did not do, what it should have done. When you look at the world the way it was before Christianity came, though, there were some improvements made. I call them improvements. One thing, the practice of exposing unwanted babies to the wild, just throwing the babies out to the wild, letting the wild beasts have them, this was outlawed, thanks to the influence of Christianity. Gladiatorial shows were outlawed. The practice of crucifixion was outlawed. Jesus and most of his disciples have been crucified. Slavery was outlawed. No, morality did not become perfect. Oh yes, something else. Assassinations, which have been a big factor in the ancient world. During the Dark Ages and Middle Ages, assassinations were very, very rare. People simply did not kill their rulers or even allow their rulers to be killed, even when they didn't like them. Again, political assassinations became a thing of the past. And I've mentioned already how a lot of men killed their sons. Herod here killed 3 of his 6 sons, and even Constantine. This has made some people doubt whether Constantine was genuinely converted. Constantine killed 2 of his sons and eventually killed his mother. And you might wonder, why would he kill his mother? Well, the woman was taking control and dominating him. As for his sons, they were trying to take over the empire. So he had them killed. But the practice of killing your sons or your mother became greatly reduced during Christianity. And there seems to have been, in general, a slight, but to me, a noticeable improvement in overall public and private morality. Now again, this can be argued, this can be debated. No, morality did not become perfect, but then considering what it had been before time, there might have been an improvement. Unfortunately, though, Western Europe continued to decline in the Dark Ages and went into the Dark Ages, but after a period of about 600 or 700 years, they came out of it. All right. Again, there's a whole lot more that could be said, and a lot more, and a lot has been said about this topic. Many a book has been written. I had a professor at UT who said you can say everything against the church you want to, but. And one of the things the church did was set up monasteries that provided, they copied all the ancient writings they get their hands on, and they provided what little bit of writing and learning that was done during the Dark Ages. Again, all this is jumping ahead of the story a little bit.